We welcome Perez Hilton. Is it fair to why did you bring this into the pageant?
Well, I was given the opportunity on this national platform to ask a question that I thought was relevant. And given the recent setbacks and advances that we've made in the fight for gay marriage, I thought it was a very important question for me specifically to ask.
Did you vent it? Did you tell the pageant you were going to ask it?
Absolutely.
You did?
I ran it by the producers beforehand, and they signed off on it, and everybody thought it was a good question. It wasn't meant to be a big bomb, and I don't think it was that hard of a question either.
Was she like a finalist? Were they down to like?
It was down to the top 5, and she was definitely either the front runner or one of the top 2 contenders.
She wound up what, runner-up?
Runner-up.
Did you think that it hurt her?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the judges did. And she knew. After she was done, during the commercial break, I could tell by the look in her face that she knew she had lost because of that answer. Because it was a bad answer.
Why is it bad if it was honest?
Honesty is great. However, in an interview this morning, she said that the audience and the judges expected her to be politically correct. You want to know what? Yes, I do expect Miss USA to be politically correct. Do we want a Miss USA that's politically insensitive, that's politically offensive? No. So I didn't disagree with her not believing in the right for gays and lesbians to be equal under the law. I disagree with how she answered the question, because Miss USA should be all-inclusive. She should be my Miss USA. And when she answered that question that way, it was instantly divisive and alienating to gays and lesbians and friends and supporters.
What would have been your answer?
My answer, well, I would have said, for her, if she, believes that gays and lesbians should not marry, she could have answered it many different ways. She could have said, well, that's a great question, very relevant right now, and I think that's a question for the states to decide for themselves, because that's how our forefathers designed our government system.
Did you call it the worst answer in pageant history?
Yes, because I was sitting there and I heard very loud boos. I don't want to make any accusations. Oh, I will, because I'm me. But when it was broadcast on the West Coast, which is the feed that I saw, the boos were taken out. But there were reporters there, and the boos were very loud. And to my knowledge, that was the first time that a Miss USA contestant had been booed.
Did you ask the same question of Miss North Carolina?
No, Miss North Carolina also got a tough question, not the same one. She was asked if she thought it was appropriate for taxpayer money to go towards company bailouts. And she answered it very well. And that was one of the many reasons why Miss North Carolina won. And I think we're taking too much attention away from Miss North Carolina. Congratulations to her.
The runner-up is the famed one in this. Any regrets?
None whatsoever.
Did it over, you'd ask the same thing.
I'd ask the same thing. I'm very glad that I asked the question and that we're having this conversation right now. And I'm hopeful that the state that I live in California, and that other states throughout the country will soon catch up with Vermont and Iowa, who had great advances recently.
What do you make of the response of it all? What's going on? What do you make of that?
I make that people are scared of the truth. She gave an honest answer, and that upset a lot of people. I applaud her for speaking her truth, but Miss USA is not her. I asked her a question as the potential Miss USA, not as Carrie Prejean or Prejean or whatever you say her name.
By the way, we invited Miss California, Carrie Prejean, to join us. Her schedule did not permit. Here are some comments from our blog and our Twitter. I think anyone that wants to be married should have the right to. What happened to equal rights? Guys getting married is up to them, but I don't think God approves. But that's for them to face on Judgment Day. I think we should change the legal term to civil union and let anyone do it. Churches can have marriages, and I think all people have the right to be married and miserable. Everybody equally deserves the right to have a ball and chain placed around them. Do you favor this state idea of state marriage, a equal right marriage? We're not calling it marriage.
Absolutely. However, there are certain rights, privileges, and protection that come with federal marriage, which gay and lesbian couples do not have unless it's a federal thing. But any step forward, I think, is a good step.
You think it's coming?
Yeah, definitely. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I hope it's within the next decade.
Now, the California Supreme Court is hearing the question of overturning Prop 8. You think they might?
I'm hopeful, cautiously optimistic.
Would you be a judge again?
I would if they would have me back, and I would ask another relevant question next year.
And you think they would have you back?
You'd have to ask Mr. Trump and thank him. I thank him for having me on. And I would like to invite Miss California out to coffee. That was a sincere invitation, and I would like to talk to her because I think that when people don't know gays and lesbians as human beings, it's easier to feel that they shouldn't have equal rights.
That was well said. Thanks, Perez.
Thank you, Larry.
Perez Hilton, celebrity blogger and a judge in the Miss USA pageant.